I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie.
Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about Josh Hawley. Senator Josh Hawley decided to introduce a proposal or bill, I guess, to ban the trading in Congress. And there's probably issues with trying to tell Congress people, or I guess their spouses, that they are unable to participate in trading. But I can understand, and a lot of people can understand and have wanted this to happen for a while, but it's raising some eyebrows that Nancy Pelosi is saying that she supports it because Nancy Pelosi obviously does stocks. Or her husband is into it, is what she said when Trump accused her, or she got accused of insider trading or whatever. What they do, I guess, technically isn't, or maybe they could be doing insider trading, but probably not insider trading. But some of the information that they have, that they do have access to, they're able to make decisions that we are not able to make as, citizens who aren't privy to information, which Josh Hawley talked about. So, but Nancy Pelosi is up there in age. She's made a lot of money already, and she's gonna retire, I'm assuming, pretty soon. I'm surprised she hasn't yet, but I don't know, maybe she intends to die in office. I don't know. But if she was a young person, would she be saying that she would want all of this banned? I'm not so sure about that. So anyway, we'll be talking about that. Also, I want to talk about something that I've had to reiterate a couple days, more than a couple days, but past few days specifically on TikTok, about how there's people who keep conflating abortion with miscarriage management, and it's really, really disgusting. It's really, really disgusting, and it's worth talking about. So I want to talk about that as well, along with some other things today. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys, go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the site, because it does cost a stream, run the site, all the good stuff, so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate you guys. You guys can also go to the website and check out different merch that we have available at the store. We have different t-shirts and mugs and so on, like the "I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For" t-shirt. You guys can check that out, along with other sorts of stuff. So go ahead and look at that. We also do have different books. I have different books. If you go to the website, there's a link at the top of the merchandise page, or it'll take you to my book website, which is ninjajustpublishing.com, and you can learn some more about some of the books that I'm working on, or books that I have published. I have 18 altogether, like my historical fiction fantasy that takes place in the Civil War. I think the American Civil War meets X-Men. And I'm just really into writing the sequel right now. Okay, I can't wait for you guys to read that. But I have stuff for younger readers as well. But there's also a link in the Amazon, in the description, if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, that'll take you to an Amazon page where you guys can learn some stuff and get it directly from there. I have my stuff in paperback. I have an ebook. I have a Kindle Unlimited, except there's no Kindle Unlimited on my nonfiction books. Like, of course, Guys Blatantly Against Abortion, you actually have to order the paperback or the ebook if you would like to read that. But there's lots of great stuff in there. For example, I posted something on Facebook the other day, and it was a conversation that I was having with someone on TikTok, and someone had posted a video where they just showed like a real to scale size image of a baby, like, I don't know, maybe at 9 weeks or something. And they were like, the organs have, formed at this point, and was just showing how it's a small little teeny tiny baby, but was just showing what the fetus at that point looked like. And so people are like, no, that's not true. It's just a clump of cells, things that just were inaccurate. And someone was like, I don't care what it looks like. And I'm still more pro-life, that I'm pro-choice, but I'm probably more pro-life in the ways that matter than she is, talking about the person who posted it. And I replied to her. Let me pull it up so I can just kind of read what's going on. If you're in the chat, make sure you can hear everything. If you guys can let me know, like, the sound and stuff is fine, the chat. Because I actually kind of do hear a humming in my earphones, but I think that's just kind of on my end, and I don't think that's on your end. And I'm not seeing like the normal YouTube people or whatever popping in. So if you want to just give a hello, let me know if everything's okay. But let me see. Oh yeah, okay. Oh gosh, it popped up really small. And I said, so I said, if both the mother and child can live, why shouldn't they live? And she said it's a personal decision. And I said, so is murder. Like, if you murder someone, that is a personal decision. If I make the choice, hey, I'm going to go murder my neighbor, that is a personal choice that I'm making. That doesn't mean that that's one you should be able to make. So that's all I posted. That's like a screenshot of that conversation on Facebook. And then someone said, you need to go look at HIPAA laws, and you need to go look at Numbers 5. So I didn't bring up the Bible in this situation. All I did was bring up and I'll show you. I'll share my screen so you guys, if you're following me on Facebook, you guys can go just scroll down a little bit and go find that page. It's pretty recent. But I just went along with the Numbers 5 stuff, and I'm like, I've read Numbers 5 many, 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 many times. And I've got the feeling you don't know what it's actually about. And they're like, oh, well, some priests, like, made an abortion happen or something. I'm like, that's not what happened in Numbers 5. Like, it's Numbers 5 starting at verse like 11 to the rest of the end of the chapter. It's a ceremony that's like to test a woman, like a husband is jealous. He didn't catch the wife in the act of adultery. He just kind of suspects. So she can go before a priest and prove her innocence. And so she has to do an oath. And she drinks like this dusty temple water. And if she's successful and she's telling the truth, she will conceive children. And if not, she's going to become barren. It doesn't say anywhere in the verse, in the whole passage, that she's pregnant. It doesn't say anything about a baby coming out or anything like that. There's a bad translation that says like miscarry, but most of them is like thigh fall away, which is like a language dealing with fertility. And it makes sense, if you fail infertility, and if you're successful, you will conceive a child. So if anything, the implication is that she's not pregnant yet if she will conceive one. But the people, I don't know, have it in their minds that the priests give her a concoction to kill a baby. I'm like, where's the test then? How is it a test? If they just give her a potion to have an abortion. That's not what happens. And I'm like, and the ingredients are harmless. So whatever happens, even if you were kind of correct in your assumption and there was a baby that was actually dying, there's nothing like that would kill a child and cause an abortion that she's consuming when she decides to take the oath. So it would be like a supernatural thing that would have to occur, like a supernatural sign from God. So whatever is happening, the judgment is coming from on high, from a sovereign God. So this is so not it comparable to abortion today. Like, if you really feel like you want to take you want your husband to take you before a Levitical priest to do some kind of test, and God will give you some harmless, like, dusty water, and God will supernaturally judge what will happen, then yeah, I'd rather have that than the abortion pills. But I'm pretty sure no one will write that into law, because today people want to intentionally go and end the life of the child. So, but yeah, so now I'm at the point combating with this person, waiting for them to explain, because they said, well, if it's not abortion, you're claiming that the priest is performing a hysterectomy. And I'm like, tell me where it says that in the passage. The priests aren't doing anything but doing this oath thing with the woman, and anything that happens afterwards is a judgment from God. And some people don't want to prescribe to this a supernatural thing happening. I'm like, these folks believe that God split the Red Sea. Why wouldn't you believe that they believe that something supernatural is going to occur? Something supernatural did occur. I believe Jesus resurrected himself. Like, so arised himself. It would be a solo leveling reference, but so yeah, we believe in supernatural things. If you don't, it's whatever. But I didn't bring it up. But anyway, religion in that conversation, someone else did, and it was really out of nowhere, I guess, really to mock people who are pro-life or whatever. But yeah, I've had to explain that passage a lot, and that's the passage that's explained in the book. Of course, God is blatantly against abortion, so I recommend that you go ahead and check that out. It really started out as a passion project of me just having to refute a bunch of like things over and over and over and over again with like pro-choice people claiming the Bible supported abortion or just misquoting things or whatever. And then I wrote an article about it, dismissing that. And then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So I just, wrote a book about it. So anyway, that's one of the things that are available, but it's not available on Kindle Unlimited. You actually have to purchase the ebook or the paperback. And again, there's a link in the description of this video if you're interested in actually getting that, which you should totally do that because it's a very good book. I took a lot of time to write it, so go ahead and check it out. Anyway, let's talk about this stock trading thing, because I think it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating. I think it's really fascinating that Nancy Pelosi is like, hey, sure, let's go ahead and do that. But let me start with this video of her on CNN and her being accused by Trump of insider trading. Let me start with that clip, and then I want to play this snippet of Josh Hawley talking about it, because Josh Hawley doesn't say that people are doing insider trading stuff, but he's saying just the information that people have is just unfair compared to everyone else doing stocks, and they can, with the information that they have, just being in Congress and getting different special briefings on stuff, they can make decisions financially that we aren't privy to. So let me start here, and then I'll back up and play Josh Hawley.
Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
Yeah, but I wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail. But because of the confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that had been made over time. I'm not into it. My husband is, but it isn't anything to do with anything insider.
Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that?
Okay, so it's not me, it's my husband that's into that stock stuff. Money. Haha, it's such a silly game. I have so much already. First of all, Nancy Pelosi, there are people who just follow the different stocks that she buys. Like I think it's an account or a website or something. And when she buys something, they just watch what she does, and other people just watch what she does. So, people don't think that she's just that good of a, person doing, banking and investments and things like that. People just assume that she's got the inside sort of tips and knowing when I should buy Nvidia stock and other things like that, because they know what we're going to spend money on, what kind of deals are made, trading, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They just have information that we do not have that benefits them financially. And so her saying that, Yeah, it is sound stock advice. Follow follow Nancy Pelosi is sound stock advice. Uh, um so she's benefited from that for a while, and so has a lot of other people within Congress. So I want to go ahead and play Josh Hawley talking about this, because he says people aren't necessarily insider trading. Like Trump going ahead and saying that about Nancy Pelosi. You know, I doubt Nancy Pelosi. She's been in the game a long time. You know, sometimes she says stuff that's like wacky, or maybe it's a little audacious and she just knows she's going to get away with it. Maybe that's why it's wacky. But she's not crazy, and she's not stupid. You know, I don't think she would get caught for something like insider trading or whatever, but that doesn't mean that she's not doing shady stuff or what people deem to be kind of immoral. So I want to go ahead and play Josh Hawley talking about this and why he wants to ban members of Congress from trading on taxpayers' dime.
Say that we have an opportunity here today to do something that the public has wanted us to do for decades, and that is to ban members of Congress from profiting on information that, frankly, only members of Congress have in the buying and selling of stock. 86% of Americans say that members of Congress should not be able to buy and sell shares of stock, individual stock, while they are members of this body, and they are absolutely correct. And the reason is, you can see it, there was just another ethics referral in the House last week. We've seen the former Speaker of the House make millions of dollars in profits. We've seen members of both parties, I'm sad to say, be investigated for their stock trades. And the reason for all of this is that, quite frankly, members of this body are privy to information that the normal person just is not. Now, is that insider trading? It is not under the laws. Sometimes people say, well, we already have insider trading laws. We don't need a stock ban. Well, the information that members of Congress are privy to is technically not covered by the insider trading laws, but nobody really believes that the information that we get isn't valuable. It is quite valuable, which is why back during COVID, you saw members of Congress of both parties engage in a flurry of stock trading right after they were getting COVID briefings. Were members of the public getting those briefings? They were not. Were members of the public privy to the kind of information that was being given to members of Congress? No, they were not. And so when you look at what members of Congress are privy to, what they are able to trade on, the access that they have, it's just qualitatively different than your average Joe or Jane, which is why we ought to put into place common sense guardrails that say, if you want to be a member of Congress, you can put you want to save, great. You can buy mutual funds, you can buy broadly diversified investment vehicles. You should not be able to buy and trade individual stock shares, in which, frankly, we have an interest in the work that we do. We have information that no other people get, no other members of the public have. This bill would finally redress that.
Now, as I said, Nancy Pelosi is signaling that she supports this. Now, why does she support this? Well, she's already made a lot of money and she's old as frick. Look, like she's had her day in the sun. You know, so maybe if she was young, maybe if she was a young gun or something like that, it wouldn't, it'd be something that maybe she'd want to really go for. But she can, now that she's amassed all of this wealth and influence, and she's on the last legs of her life, she's up there. She's not gonna live like terribly much longer. It's okay to shut the door on the way out, you know. At least probably in her eyes. So I don't think it's it absolves her of these accusations, you know, not of like insider trading, but like just benefiting from information and making different trades. So I'm glad that Josh Hawley brought it up, and the American people are aware of what's going on, and that's why they're upset. They just get the jump on all this stuff while other people are losing money, you know, watching them be taxed too high or inflation too high. They're just losing whatever little dollar that they get. It just becomes less valuable more and more and more over time, while they see people go into Congress and just become extraordinarily wealthy, and not just because they wrote a book or two that did well, you know? So I get it. Now, is it like really ethical? Well, is it ethical for folks to be taking this sort of information and profiting off of stuff that not everybody knows? I think that's kind of bad. But there are folks pointing out like, should we be banning Congress people and their spouses? Because Nancy Pelosi is like, it's not me, it's my husband who does all these things. Is it right to ban the spouses of congressional people from trading and like kind of trying to manage their wealth like that? There's a debate about that. Like, I can understand. It doesn't feel great to me. I don't know. I got to think about it a little bit more. But I get it. I absolutely get it. Yeah. How far does it go? Children, siblings, that, there was, to just kind of, I don't know, compare it to something. There was a bill that got passed. It wasn't a bill. It was like a ballot initiative in Michigan to change how we redistrict and decide like how many, our lines that are drawn for what kind of congressional districts there are or whatever. And they ran it was like a Obama folks, was like Eric Holder, maybe. I think it was his project with other folks. A lot of Democrats had their hands on it. They tried to say it was like bipartisan or whatever, but it was like a Democrat sort of effort to win this ballot initiative. And they had like really, really simple sort of marketing. And they would say, we need voters, not politicians, making this decision and stuff. And the thing about politicians making decisions about the different maps is that you elect the people who go and draw the maps. And then if the maps are really bad, then you can go, find recourse in the like Supreme Court to like strike it down, and so on. But they're like, no, we don't need this in the hands of elected officials. We should have a true like partisan, like bipartisan panel to do it. And we'll have Republicans and we'll have Democrats and we'll have independents, which in Michigan, we don't have like, we've got closed primaries, but you don't like, I don't think you register like I am a Republican, I am a Democrat. You can find that, like, look at people's voting patterns or whatever. But as far as someone being a true independent, are there really true independents? I don't know. It seems a little sketchy. How would you like for sure know? But to be on the panel though, to be considered on the panel to be part of the redistricting, you couldn't be someone who's held office, and you couldn't be a sibling, I think, or a spouse. And I'm like, that really eliminates like a lot of people, because it wasn't just you were in Congress or you were in the Senate or state Senate or state house. It was like if you were a precinct delegate. Like a precinct delegate is, it's a very valuable and important position to have, like, but it's like really low level like activism, like where you start off at. Like as a precinct delegate, you could put your name on there and like not do anything in life and just like, in some areas you could just like run and be like, I'm running for precinct delegate, get a couple votes in, you're like, oh, you won that thing. Like it'd be really easy to win. And I have been precinct delegate before, but like in where I live, like as a Republican, oh gosh, you just put your name on the ballot and cinch that victory, and then you don't technically need to do anything. Ideally precinct delegates, that's more like a party thing. And maybe you would like on election day go and take care of your precinct and pass that information or whatever. But I know people who just basically ran for that stuff to have spots, but they get to have different says in like the conventions and so on. So it is an important role, but it was just bizarre to me. I'm like, so I'm a precinct delegate, and I can't have immediate family participate and sign up to be a part of this thing. And it's like, why wouldn't you want people with some sort of political knowledge to be a part of drawing our lines? Why would you want like total amateurs to be looking at the maps and sort of figuring this out? It just didn't make any sense. So we had different Republicans who were sounding the alarm for a while, but the marketing was so good because people were like, oh, we're going to get rid of gerrymandering. And even Republicans voted for it to pass. And I remember like people were talking about how they're doing phone calls to like, hey, get out the vote for this person. I'm like, yeah, and vote against this thing. And like, well, I'm voting against it. Though I voted for it because I want to get rid of gerrymandering. And they're thinking about like districts where it's like just really, really heavy Democrat. Like I was in the 14th district at the time, which doesn't exist anymore. But they're like, yeah, I want to like get rid of gerrymandering in 14th district. And we're like, no, like this is going to like gerrymander stuff like this. You've been had. And they're like, oh no, like, can I change my vote? So they had a really just effective campaign strategy and stuff. And so eventually they drew the maps, and Republicans had to really, really watch it. It didn't end up being like the worst, I guess, as bad as it could have been, but there was a lot of like drama involved. I don't know if there's still lawsuits involved in it because Democrats were complaining because they basically lost some like, you know, black folks who were representing them. So I don't know if the lawsuits for that kind of stuff is still going on, but my point was that people felt like left out or unfairly singled out, and their family singled out because someone ran for precinct delegate. So I know that's different. This is definitely a different thing, but just from that scenario, people were going to find it unfair where like, oh, we're making money in the Sox, and so now you're going to run from Congress, and maybe I'm doing really good on my Robinhood app, and now we got to just pump the brakes for however long you want to be in Congress. But you could easily say, well, that is a sacrifice for wanting to serve the people, you know? And a lot of people do make sacrifices for wanting to serve the people. Maybe that would make it less desirable for people who are kind of mid-tier income to come in to serve in Congress. Maybe it'll just continue to be like a rich man's game. Someone who's already made their money, like Nancy Pelosi, like, well, I can manage not trading stocks, or my spouse not trading stocks. You know, so there could be pros and cons to something like this. I don't know in the long run if it's going to get signed, and how it would really make it through Congress or whatever. So we'll see. We shall see. Let me see what some of the reactions are, because he did repost this video. I want to see if there's any interesting quote tweets going on. Someone said this will be amazing if it passed. John said, I'll give credit to where credit is due. It's a good thing that Hawley deserves recognition for getting this going, and I donated it to his opponent in 2018. Someone said, thank you. Josh was on TV, just said what Nancy Pelosi does should be illegal. You understand the word should. So why is the big guy calling for an investigation into Nancy? Change the law. I've been saying this since she started making big dollars. Okay, Hawley, please flesh out what real Donald Trump just said about you. Is this true? I have to look that up. Holy bleep, something useful out of Missouri. They should name it the Pelosi Act. I would find an accurate, different ways to spell out Pelosi. To be funny, I would absolutely name it the Pelosi Act. This is something that should garner overwhelmingly rare bipartisan support. Y'all know I'm no Hawley fan, but this is good and right. You should, with the DNC, you bleep traitor, or you sided with the DNC, you bleep traitor. Okay. Any member of Congress who votes no needs to have his or her income investigated since sitting in Congress. So, I didn't vote for you, so to send my $600 to the Vatican's poor box, it's obvious you buying votes. Oh, that has nothing to do with this particular vote. Stop Pelosi from continuing her action. So that seems to be the sentiment that people shouldn't be able to do this. And I think he will win the public support on this. So I don't know how Trump might personally feel about it. He's another one who's like up there in age and obviously has a lot of personal income, though he still likes to make a lot of money. Bitcoin, Trump shoes, and all that stuff. So, but you know, if it's something that people wants, he might go ahead and sign something like that. So we'll see. We'll have to watch where this goes. I don't know if there's a constitutional argument kind of against it or not, but I think maybe you could like ask people to make that decision for transparency, for, you know, trust in the public, you know, because Congress doesn't have any trust from the people. They really, really don't. Anyway, moving on. I wanted to talk about something that I'm continuously seeing repeated. It's not anything new, but I was just really kind of annoyed and today. I was annoyed today. A friend of mine did a TikTok replying to a pretty big account, and someone in the comments decided to bring up my friend was like replying about to an abortion video, and people always want to bring up like, no, we need it for we need it for various reasons, and people are going to be in danger if we don't have it, etc., etc. And this person decided to bring up miscarriage management. So I'll read you the comment. And he said, you understand that abortion is a term for a medical procedure, right? If a woman miscarries and the fetus must be removed, that procedure is an abortion. There have now been women who have died because they have been made to carry dead tissues to term. So not true. Not only is that unhygienic, it is mentally scarring. And even outside of that one circumstance, stop making it seem women are just screwing around and getting one every other weekend. An abortion is a serious procedure that requires serious thought. So I've had to reply to and make a few videos on this subject the past week or so. And so I saw this and I was so annoyed by it because it's sort of misinformation. I know it's designed for activism to get more people on the pro-choice side, but the conflation, I think, is also, I think there's a result that happens, and maybe it's also the intention to cause harm, to cause women to have actual harm and confusion when they go to the doctors, when they go to the hospital, so people can get on the news, people can write reports, and people can read, and it can go on social media, and people can say, oh, this woman wasn't properly cared for, thus it was a pro-life law, meaning we can't have any restrictions on abortions, because when you have any restrictions on abortions, they lead to harm. And I'd rather someone be able to have the ability to abort a 32-week fetus because they feel like it, if it means that there won't be any confusion when a doctor has to perform an abortion for medical reasons. And every pro-life law has exceptions for like medical emergencies, life of the mother, and so on. But that's not even like what people are conflating here. This person is conflating miscarriage management and claiming that doctors are making women carry dead tissue to term. I need to see like the evidence of that. That's cap. But I'm gonna say some things and maybe might trigger some folks, but I'm just trying to be technical here today because this really, really ticks me off. So I just want to put it out there. If you have a miscarriage, because they're trying to say like if you have a miscarriage, you need an abortion to remove the deceased child. And when Jessa Duggar, for example, had a miscarriage, she had a DNC, and people were saying she was a hypocrite for having a DNC after her child passed away, and they removed the child from within her so she wouldn't, get sepsis or whatever and die. They were saying she was a hypocrite because she's anti-abortion and she wants it banned. Now, if you look at any pro-life law, or go look at a heartbeat bill, why do you think it is that they want you to check that there's a heartbeat? Just think about this rationally. Why do you think they want them to check if there is a heartbeat? They want you to check if there is a heartbeat because they want to make sure that you don't kill the child. They want to make sure that you don't kill the child. So if there is a detectable heartbeat or whatever, which heartbeat bills are designed because by the time you realize you're pregnant, there's going to be a heartbeat likely, right? It's a way to have a full ban without like really having a full ban. They don't want you to kill a child. The whole intention is about killing the child. That's why we're upset. That's why we talk about this stuff all the time. That's why people march, in the cold in January all the time and throughout other places throughout the year. That's why, the Pro-Life Institute, in Live Action, Secular Pro-Life, all these organizations exist. Why people debate about it literally all day long on TikTok and other places, but especially TikTok. You can find an abortion debate all day long. We are not having all these debates and trying to ban miscarriage management. It is all about the intentional killing of a child. That's what we want to ban. That's what we want to ban. That's what we want to get rid of. There's no point. I'm not gonna say there's no point. I understand why they want to conflate it, but it's disgusting. It's cruel. And it's also dangerous. So let me get into the part that even if you're pro-life, I might trigger you a little bit. If you have a miscarriage and you need to have a DNC, the DNC is not what is the abortion. You can have a DNC and have nothing to do with an abortion. The DNC is, like dilation and like curettage. They're like going on with like a curette and they're like cleaning you out. You might need to have that to diagnose certain things for biopsy. Maybe you got like access stuff from like endometriosis or whatever. It may not have anything to do with pregnancy. You may need one after a pregnancy, and you may have one do a DNC to get a baby out. If that's the case, you are having an abortion. But if you're having a DNC after you've had a miscarriage, the reason why you need the DNC is because you've had an abortion. There's two words like I want people to be aware of: spontaneous and induced. An abortion is a termination of a pregnancy resulting in the death of the embryo or the fetus. A pregnancy is the period of time in which a child is developing or growing within a woman. If they're not developing, if they're not growing, then that is because they are dead. They have passed. And if they are not growing and they are not developing, they are decaying. And that's why they need to be removed. If you have a spontaneous abortion, which is a miscarriage, and I know a lot of people, I don't like calling it a spontaneous abortion, it's just the accurate like medical term. If you go through to a hospital, it's going to be built. You might see it in the billing that it's called that. Morally, we understand. I understand, you understand. Unfortunately, there's pro-choice activists or whatever who are trying to conflate stuff. But we understand that there's a big moral difference between a spontaneous abortion and an induced abortion. It's about intent here. If you have a miscarriage, especially of a pregnancy that you very much wanted, you couldn't help that. You didn't mean for that to happen. You might not understand why it happened. But I have mourned children who've passed naturally in their mother through miscarriage. Women have mourned children who pass via miscarriage. Even women who have abortions. Some women get really mad. There was one woman who was on TikTok and she was talking about how she lost a child, and then she went deeper into it and then came to find out she had an abortion. Like, she took the pills, and people who were pro-choice were angry at her because they're like, no, these are different things. You can't just act like they're the same and you purposely did that, and it's different than when you don't mean to lose a child. So people seem to understand that there's a difference, yet people want to conflate it. So if you have a miscarriage, doctors do tend to want to wait to see if you're going to pass the child naturally. They want to see if you'll do that naturally because they'd rather that happen than them have to put you through surgery. Now, sometimes you can't wait for that. Sometimes maybe there's too much bleeding and they're concerned and they want to take care of it right away. There was some influencers I'm mutual with on TikTok. I found out recently that they had a miscarriage, and the time where they expected that the baby would probably pass through her, she was going to probably be on an airplane going out of the country. So they're like, okay, let's take care of this now. So they had, a D&C. Sometimes you don't even like really know why you're not getting like the symptoms of the miscarriage, like the bleeding and other things. And you might not know unless you go to the doctors and there's a sonogram or something. And that's called like a miscarriage. And you might need to go ahead and have the D&C then. But the pregnancy is ended. The pregnancy, again, is the time in which the baby is growing within you, developing within you. And once it ends, the pregnancy does end. And the baby should come out. It might not. You might need surgery. Okay? So people trying to conflate a miscarriage or what miscarriage management with someone purposely taking the life of their son or daughter, I've just so had enough of it. I've had enough of it. I hate it so much. And people say it so seriously. They say it so seriously. They're so angry about it. Like, I saw a video, a friend of mine replied to it. I think the original content creator might have taken it down because I couldn't find the original. I did make a reply, but I just used the clips that he had already got from her page. But there was a woman saying, I just would love if someone came to me, like I dare them to come to me and say that an abortion is a sin. Because if it's a sin, please explain to me, what was I supposed to do at 19 weeks after my child had passed already and I had to have an abortion to take it out of me so it wouldn't rot and so on, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, you had a miscarriage and then you removed your child. Conflating these two things are like, and I've used this analogy before, I didn't come up with it. I think Secular Pro-Life came up with it. They're the first people I saw say this, but conflating them is like conflating cremation with setting an alive person on fire. And it's so sad to me that there are women who have gone through this tragedy of losing a child in the womb, and then they use their story to spread misinformation and to like be part of this club, like part of the abortion club. Like, well, I had one too. It's not the same as you losing a child versus someone taking the child's life. They're not in the same universe at all. So I don't understand the psychology of that. Chrissy Teigen was a woman who had complications, and it sounded like to me from Chrissy Teigen's story is that they had some kind of complication And they were doing their best to save the baby because she talked about getting bags and bags and bags of blood. And I think that they had to induce the labor, and they tried to save the baby's life that was premature, and they didn't make it. That's kind of what it seems like from the story, something along those lines. And she said that John Legend like had to convince her, or did convince her, that she had an abortion. And he was like, that was an abortion. And she's like, oh, I didn't know. No, John Legend, that's not what happened. I'm very sorry for your loss. And it was a loss because it was a human life. And I know you support taking it. But no one purposely took that child's life. You had a complication. And it's a tragedy. But no, your wife didn't have like an induced abortion, not to terminate the child's life. Maybe it was the result of trying to save Chrissy. I'm not 100% sure on all the details, but it's very different from, again, what we're marching in the streets for, or what you read in abortion bans. So I just wanted to stop. It was really gross to me when Jessa Duggart had to go through it, and you had the heiress of Disney and all these different abortion activists and their magazines and websites condemning her. I'm like, she just lost her baby. She just lost her baby. And you want to jump down her throat because she doesn't believe that you should be able to just end their life? Now, again, an abortion is a termination of a pregnancy resulting in the death of an embryo or fetus. It's fine if you just want to call a miscarriage a miscarriage. I don't like calling it a spontaneous abortion. That's just, if you go look at a medical dictionary, if you look on your billing, it's just technically what it is. But morally, we understand the difference. An induced abortion means you meant to cause it to happen. You meant to cause it to happen. And we recognize that there's certain procedures. There's the pill you can take that suffocates and starves a child to death. The purpose is to cut off the nutrients with the first pill. And then the second one is that you expel the body. You could have the D and E. I think that's the one where you suck them out through the tube. You could have the D and C, and that's when you scoop them out. And then besides well, I guess you can scoop them out. You have to crush the skull and scrape out the rest. And I'm sorry that this is graphic, but and then if it's a late trimester, you would induce the fetal demise. You'd inject a drug within them to stop their heart while you're preparing the cervix and stuff. You'd have to do multi-day procedures depending on how big the baby is. And then you deliver or take it out in pieces or whatever. So it's just a gruesome process for sure. And it's absolutely not the same. The intention is what matters. So when you go read the bills. I've seen debates where people want to define well, we're going to define it this way. And they're like, okay, well, let's define it. Let's go look at a law and see how they define it. No, I want to define it this way. It's okay, well, however you want to define it doesn't matter. We're having discussions about the morality of it. We're having a discussion about the morality of it because we think it should be illegal. So it doesn't matter how we define these terms in the law, what our actual end goal is. People defining abortions as just the termination of a pregnancy, meaning that the C-section ended the pregnancy. Therefore, if you were born via C-section, then that means that you had an abortion. Your mom had an abortion. You survived an abortion. No. People don't have abortions so people can survive them. That's not why people have abortions. So I would just really, 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 really appreciate it if we could just move on past this. It's hurt a lot of women who have lost children, and it does hurt women who have complications. And you have, I don't know, new doctors or ignorant doctors or activist doctors who don't want to act. Some things are just malpractice, and some things are people conflate stories with like ways that doctors really do operate, because doctors do try to wait and see if you are going to pass the child naturally. Maybe they're taking some time, like if you're further along, to see, how your cervix is gonna move or whatever. I don't know. Like I heard someone told me that their daughter had to wait like 2 weeks. I'm like, that seems insane. And she didn't like offer like an explanation that really made a lot of sense to me. Or whatever. I guess they were trying to do pills or whatever to see they could like expel it that way, and it didn't really work. And then I guess then they had to do like surgery and stuff. But it was that would be horrific. But unfortunately, sometimes you can't get away from horrific, tragic things in life. And sometimes you do lose children. But there's a difference in losing a child and basically laying them upon the altar of self. So please stop doing this conflation. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. And it's just so harmful to women. So please, let's just stop. Let's please stop that. Anyway, on a happier note, I want to share this TikTok before I let you go. I thought it was so nice. The actor from Better Call Saul, he talked about fatherhood, and it was so sweet. That I wanted to share, because so many people talk about how they hate their kids and kids are so difficult. Not that they're not difficult, but someone in the comment had posted a quote. I don't know where it's from, but like, your hands are full, but they're never empty. Like when you have a child, especially little children. So I think this is encouraging, because a lot of people, they trash marriage, they trash kids and families and so on. And, there's a trend of like the people wanting to be like childless and whatever. And maybe not everybody's like suited to have a family, but I wanted to highlight this because it really like made me feel gooey inside. So, after talking about something gruesome, let's talk about something gooey.
Who are you jealous of?
Anybody who's still got little kids at home growing up.
Oh,
Yeah, there's no question. I knew what I was doing when I had kids growing up.
yeah.
I was being a dad. I mean, that was my job. And
Yeah.
I didn't have to ask myself, what am I doing here? What am
Yeah.
I doing? How can I be a part of this world? How can I be meaningful today?
Yeah.
I didn't have to ask that question, because the answer is pick up everything between here and the door.
Yeah, that's right.
And make sure they get to school and have a laugh with them.
Yeah.
And,
Oh.
life was, I understood my purpose.
Best answer.
Yeah, I just thought that was really sweet. When you take on life grants us a lot of different challenges that we have to meet head on. And when you take on responsibility and you assume responsibility, there's so much meaning, especially in raising and taking care of little kids. I don't have any myself right now. Like, why don't you have kids? Because I don't got no husband. We get a husband, I'll get some kids. Lord willing. But even like, doing like different auntie duties, I love watching them grow up, and they give a lot of meaning to their parents, my sister, and to us as well. There's so much love in my heart for them. And my little niece, the littlest one, Selena, if you just kind of bend down like on one knee and outstretch your arms, she will just smile and run to you. and give you like the biggest hug with her little arms. And it's so heartwarming. It's so heartwarming. And Selena, she her mom had a really tough time. Me and my mom went to go to the hospital after she was born, and there was just so many doctors in my sister's room. It was alarming. And the doctors saw me and my mom. One of them came out, and they're just like, "Oh, we just want to explain what's going on, because we know it's alarming when you see a lot of people like in the hospital, in the hospital room and stuff." And we're just like, "She's lost some blood, but she's okay, and we're just monitoring things." And they kind of told my sister later that they downplayed it a bit. We were concerned. And she was bleeding a lot still while we were in there, and she was vomiting, she was shaking at one point. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on, and they ended up sending her home, and she got sick, and like she had like preeclampsia, I guess. And if she had like stayed home and just kind of ignored her body like a day or two, she might have died. And it was really rough. But man, she loves Selena so much. She loves all her kids, and I love her kids. Selena is so sweet. She's so sweet. And I saw people talk about the mortality rate the other day. Like, if you were really pro-life, you'd care about the maternal mortality rate. And during that time and now, I'm just like, if any of these people, if my sister would have passed away in service of giving birth to the children that she loves, and the people tried to turn around and use her death to kill more babies, I might get physical. That's the instinct. That doesn't mean I would do it. Maybe the Holy Spirit be like, Christina, no, don't do that. But she's so sweet, and she's one. I guess she'll be two soon. But she's just so cute. She just comes and runs right into your arms. But everything that you do is for the future, and when you have a child, that future is like walking and talking, and you have a responsibility to take care of them. So anyway, it was a good video. I just wanted to share. Thank you guys for joining me today. Please go back to tnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because it does cost a stream. Run my site, all the good stuff. So you guys get supportive, very much appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. You guys can check out different merch that's available at the store, like different t-shirts and mugs and so on, like the different mugs. I got fall's coming. It's almost pumpkin spice season. So I got this little Trump mug. I did draw this chibi Trump myself. I know it's been requested that I draw another little chibi Trump mug. And I don't know if maybe a Christmas one, because I have a fall one. So maybe a Christmas one. Maybe I'll draw a Christmas one, and then maybe a 4th of July one. Maybe I'll get on that. Maybe one day. But go ahead and check out the merch, and you guys can check out the different books that I have available. I have 18 all together. There's a link in the description that'll take you to the Amazon page. God bless you guys, and I'll see you next time.